All right, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, so I can.
Okay, is Gary on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good evening. The time is 6:01 p.m. on November 9th. We're going on the record. This is the time that's scheduled for a hearing for Deschutes County file number 247-21889-AD, which is a request to establish a wireless telecommunications facility on property in the exclusive farm use zone. It's my understanding that the applicant would like to request a continuation of the hearing. So Mr. Regini, I'm going to turn it over to you and you can introduce that topic.
Sure. For the record, Anthony Regini, I'm a senior planner with the Community Development Department. I received an email this afternoon from the applicant indicating that they wanted to request a continuance to a date time certain. And so at this point, I'm going to ask the producer to elevate Kim Allen, representing the applicant, to a panelist. And that way we can have that discussion regarding the continuance.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Kim.
Very good. Good evening, Hearing Officer Brooks and Mr. Regini. My name's Kim Allen. I'm with the Wireless Policy Group, here representing the applicant AT&T. My associates, Meredith Pabst and Ken Lyons from our firm, are also on the bridge. In the last 24 hours and well into this evening, a significant amount of public comment has been received on this matter, including a 16-page legal argument by counsel for Gary Sherman and other neighbors. Having just received these materials this afternoon, there's not been an opportunity to thoroughly review the comments, much less respond to them. So the applicant's requesting continuance of this hearing to a date certain next month pursuant to DCC 22.24-140 to allow sufficient time for review and response. The applicant also requests to defer its hearing presentation until the next date to allow sufficient time to fully incorporate analysis and response to the public comment in the event that the examiner opens the hearing tonight and receives testimony from other participants.
Ms. Allen, I'm sorry, could you repeat your second point there? I for some reason it drifted off here.
I'm sorry. Yes, we're requesting that we be able to defer the applicant's presentation until the next hearing date so that we can do a thorough presentation that addresses all the public comment as well as the application.
And sorry, did you have an alternative? I thought you mentioned something about if we did proceed tonight, there was something that maybe I misheard you.
That's okay. Yeah, if the examiner chooses to open the hearing and accept testimony from participants that are here tonight, we just ask that we be able to defer our presentation until the next hearing.
All right. Mr. Regini, does staff have any comments on the request?
No. If hearings officer, if you are going to grant the continuance, then we should talk about dates. We do have on our schedule a couple of dates that are already noticed, and so we'll have to fit it in between a couple of dates that I'm aware of.
All right. If everyone will indulge me just for a minute, I just kind of want to read through this part of the code and just make sure I understand the request and how it fits in with there. So give me 1 minute.
Anthony, if they're going to request a continuation, they're going to provide additional comments to counter the lawyer's input, correct? So
and
we're
that,
going to have to see that before we can make comments.
and it may not happen until the night of the hearing.
So we won't have that. We won't have we won't have a justifiable ability to respond until.
And typically, this is why,
Supplementary.
yeah, and this is typically why members of the public will request the written record be left open.
Okay.
And so that's part of that discussion. So
Okay.
when we get to the next hearing night, if you believe that you need more time, it's your responsibility to request the hearings officer that the record be left open. And then we have that discussion at the end of the hearing.
Okay. And then you'll, it'll be a period of time, then you'll make your adjudication.
All right. Thanks for indulging me. As I'm reading the county's code in section 22-24-140A, it does say if a continuance request is made after the published or mailed notice has been provided, the hearings body shall take evidence at the scheduled hearing date from any party wishing to testify at that time after notifying those present of the continuance. I think under the code, I do have the discretion to grant the continuance, and I'm inclined to do that for the applicant. Because the notice has already gone out though, and people have showed up, I feel compelled to at least leave open the opportunity for anyone that wants to provide evidence tonight can go ahead and do that. Maybe in a second, Mr. Regini can tell me if anyone in the room or online actually wants to do that. My request, though, is going to be that if people do give testimony tonight, that when we do have this continuance, that you not repeat testimony at later points in the hearing. We don't need to have two hearings on the same subject matter. And you may wish to go after the applicant once you know what the applicant's presentation is going to be, but nonetheless, I'll leave that opportunity to testify tonight. There's one other thing I want to make sure. I think we're okay. So with that, Mr. Regini, is there any? Well, let me ask: Does the staff want to give its staff report tonight, or would you prefer to do that on the evening of the continued hearing?
So I'll address actually two things. I would prefer to give the staff report at the continued hearing. The other thing I think would be prudent is to discuss what the hearing date is, because members of the public may not know if they're available that night, and they may be essentially forced to testify tonight because they're not available for that continued hearing date.
Thank you. That's a great point. I was going to kind of do both, but you're right. Maybe we should do the date first, and then that will let people decide if they're even available. So I've got my calendar. If you've got some dates that work.
Sure. Ms. Allen, do you have suggested hearing dates?
I do not. I was unaware of what the county's current schedule is for hearings, so I'll defer to you, Mr. Regini.
Sure. So we have a hearing already scheduled for November 30th and likely December 14th. So I was going to suggest December 7th because obviously November 23rd is Thanksgiving week, and it's probably going to be difficult for some folks to attend that one. So I was going to suggest December 7th, if that works for the applicant, and if the applicant's willing to toll the clock for the length of that continued hearing, or to the continued hearing.
Yes to both questions, Mr. Regini.
Okay. So then if we're agreed, December 7th, Tuesday, 6 p.m. will be the date time certain for the continued hearing. At this point, Hearings Officer Brooks, I can poll the folks who are in the room. And then for those of you joining in Zoom, if you wish to testify tonight, again, with the notation that you can testify at the continued hearing, I'm going to ask you in a moment to press the raise hand button if you wish to testify tonight. So first, for those folks who are with us in person, by a show of hands, if any of you would like to testify tonight, if you could please indicate. Hearings Officer Brooks, nobody attending in person wishes to testify. So for those of you joining us via Zoom, again, if you wish to testify tonight, please raise your hand. And it looks like we have one, Gary Sherman. So if you'd like, Hearings Officer Brooks, I can go through the Zoom instructions, and then we can elevate Mr. Sherman. It's not clear to me if he wants to testify or if he has a question. He's been raising his hand on and off during our discussion, so he may in fact have a question rather than testimony.
Yeah, why don't we figure out if Mr. Sherman has a question first, and then
Okay.
maybe through that we can divine if the Zoom instructions are necessary.
Okay. And the producer is elevating Mr. Sherman at this time.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Gary.
Okay, good. Mr. Brooks, first of all, I'd like to object to their continuance. Do I have any grounds to do that, or are they going to get a continuance tonight? We're prepared to go ahead with this. We spent a lot of time doing this, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the county should offer them a continuance at this stage.
Mr. Sherman, I'll have to leave it to you to determine if you have any grounds to object. I will tell you I am continuing the hearing. It's allowed under the code and within my discretion, and especially where additional documents or evidence are submitted by another party, any party can request that. So we are going to continue the hearing to the 7th, and I believe at 6 p.m. If you have an objection, you can raise that now.
We'll just wait, I guess.
Okay. All right.
Hey, producer, if you could move Mr. Sherman to attendee status, that'd be great. So at this point, hearings officer Brooks, again, nobody in attendance in person and no one in attending via Zoom wishes to testify. So if it's okay with you, I'll skip the Zoom instructions and my oral staff report.
Yes, that is fine with me if you skip the Zoom instructions, and I understand it. Like any participant, you can wait as well to give the staff report. Let's see, you mentioned something. I wanted to make sure Ms. Allen knew just how the code reads. The 150-day clock will be extended. I read that as being automatically this time because the continuance is being requested by the applicant. And the code provides that when you make that request, it's an automatic extension. But it would be helpful for me if you acknowledge that in any subsequent communications into the record. I just want to make sure. Just reading through one other thing. So just to clarify, because we have officially opened the hearing, but we are going to continue it. One of my obligations is to announce the order of the proceedings. So in this case, I think what I just want to state for the record is that the proceedings will be all advanced to the December 7th. And at that time, we will go over in more detail the specific order of presentation, but it will follow what the county's code requires. Are any other issues for me?
I do want to note that Mr. Sherman has raised his hand again. So if you want to acknowledge him and have him elevated.
I would like to. I think this is, I think it's appropriate tonight since we're doing things a little bit out of the ordinary, that I'll hear from Mr. Sherman.
Mr. Sherman, are you there?
You do appear to be muted.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can, Mr. Sherman.
I'm sorry, my screen just blipped on me for some reason. I apologize. I withdraw it. We'll just wait for the continuance to testify, to give our arguments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sherman. I actually was under the impression you'd already said that. So
Yeah, I did, and then I was going to go ahead, and then I since have been said just leave it. So we're just gonna wait.
Okay, I'm gonna officially take that as your word, and you and others sound like we will wait. And but thank you for clarifying. So with that, Mr. Regini, is there anything else procedurally you would like us to address before we adjourn here and continue it?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, well, it is 6:15 then, and we will adjourn for now, and this hearing will be continued until December 7th at 6 p.m. And we will take up the hearing where we left off, which is where the staff will give an overview of the Zoom instructions, and I'll say a few words, and then we'll go into the proceedings. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you.